Ringo Starr discusses some of his most cherished photographs of the Beatles. Ringo Starr, who has an endless supply of youthful energy, passed during the pandemic doing something that many of us did, browsing the internet, looking at old images, discovering cool stuff, and reassessing his life. Ringo Starr, an icon from the band The Beatles, experiences nostalgia in the same way that many of us do, through looking at old photographs. By looking through some old pictures of the rock band, the well-known drummer is reliving his glory days. He is drawing from all the recollections and writing about them at the same time. But of course, given his background as the drummer for the Beatles, he experienced cool things a little bit differently than the rest of us may have. Specifically, photographs of him performing with his previous band. Ringo selected some of his all-time favorite pictures and compiled them into a new book titled Lifted, Fab Images and Memories of My Life with the Beatles from Across the Universe. Fabulous images of my Beatle days have retained the magical and mysterious power to bring me back to those times and memories, he writes. It's as if those times and memories have been frozen in time. Being in their presence helped me rediscover the joy and wonder that characterize my time spent with the Fab Four, he said. David Wild, who contributed to the book, Lifted, claims that the situation was more complicated than that, and that Ringo chose photographs that moved him emotionally. Wild, who viewed the pictures with Ringo and provided their feedback to the post, an emotional feeling of what the Beatles mean to him is represented through the photos contained in this book. Ringo says that being a member of the Beatle band was kind of like being Pope or President, only probably a lot more fun. When asked how it feels to have previously held that position, the beginning and the start of the cherished photos. It begins with a black and white photograph of baby Ringo, or as he was born in Liverpool in 1940, Richard Starkey, and finishes with a group photograph of his all-star band. This is the rotating lineup of seasoned rockers with whom he continues to tour the world. Ringo embarks on another month-long tour of North America in October, supported by longtime musical companions like Todd Rundgren and Toto's Steve Lukather. Ringo still enjoys performing. Beatles Pillow Fight, George V Hotel, Paris, 1964. A wonderful shot that Ringo recalls in the 1964 pillow fight. The Beatles' pillow fight from 1964 at the Hotel George V in Paris is Harry Benson's self-described one photograph. In this case, Benson was not only fortunate to be working with the Beatles, but he was also present when the famed band learned that their song I Want to Hold Your Hand had reached #1 on the US charts. Benson was photographing a pillow battle before he realized it. He was photographing their jubilant play fighting, capturing the iconic image of Paul McCartney throwing a pillow at John Lennon while Ringo Starr was climbing on top of George Harrison. This is a strong conviction from a photographer known for generating such a highly appreciated and beautifully constructed body of work capturing intimate images of the 20th century's most well-known people. During this period in 1964, the Beatles were still fresh, young, and functioning well together, providing the ideal opportunity for Benson to capture them at their peak. After Benson's gentle suggestion opened the way for an intimate and lighthearted representation of the renowned band. Benson's timing was beautifully timed to capture Paul McCartney's swing. Benson recounts processing the negatives in George V's lavatory and packing them in his bag, unaware of their historic and cultural significance. One of the photos in his collection that he admires most is one is referred to as the Playing the Cavern. Ringo believes that this photograph was taken of the Beatles performing at the Cavern, a nightclub in Liverpool that served as the band's training ground when they were just starting out. It says in the writing, "John has given me a glance here, as if I've done something extremely wrong, or more likely, something extremely right." Ringo Starr has shared so many iconic and cherished photographs of the Beatles. What is your favorite photo of the Beatles? Let us know in the comment section below. Lifted by Ringo Starr. Wild states, Ringo looks at images like this and always refers to the front line, he remarked. We had the best front line in music, Wild added, that Ringo's perspective from behind the drums was staring at the three of them, and he describes John, Paul, and George as the front line. During the height of Beatlemania, Ringo's position on stage proved quite advantageous. According to Wild, eventually the screaming from the audience got so loud that the only way he could tell where the song was heading was by watching how the other band members were moving. Next is the pre-global stardom photograph. Ringo remarked to Wild after looking at this photograph, "Look how youthful we are, and we're wearing different jackets." This picture of the Beatles, which was most likely taken in England or Germany, shows them before they became famous and started wearing identical outfits as kind of a on-stage uniform. "It makes you realize that there were four lads," said Wild. "It makes you realize that they were four lads. They were pioneering the concept of what a band would be and what it meant to be a rock star at the time. They were the first people to realize that chemistry was everything and the significance of being in harmony with one another." The Beatles polished themselves up and made their debut on The Ed Sullivan Show in 1964. Not long after this photograph was shot of them, and as soon as it happened, rock bands started playing in garages around the United States, according to Wild. Hey Jude era. When he saw this one, Ringo remarked something about flower power, said Wild. This picture was probably taken around the time that Hey Jude was released, when the band members were starting their own lives, going through transitions, getting married, and gradually growing apart. Nevertheless, Wild continued, "I see them sitting together in this photo, and I get the impression that they are quite close to one another." Ringo disclosed disagreements, but he emphasized that they were disagreements between brothers. The drummer agrees and says, "The Beatles demonstrate what individuals are capable of accomplishing when they work together. We were a fantastic group who not only accomplished a lot, but also had a lot of fun while doing it. It was a lovely thing, and it's one of the reasons the music has endured for half a century." Images from the magical time. The psychedelics-influenced television show Magical Mystery Tour, released in 1967, does not rank among the Beatles' most noteworthy accomplishments. It's gone down as a bit of a muddled mess, a TV special that never quite pulled together, Wild said about the event. However, this still from the production shows that Beatles having a good time during their career when they were at the top of their game and getting along well. According to Ringo, they were barreling forward at full speed, and the other three guys kept each of them sane throughout the ordeal. Ringo Starr on working together. The Beatles were largely responsible for the rise in popularity of rock and roll, as well as boy bands and shaggy haircuts. Even though every person brought their unique creative perspective to the table, the result was pure gold. In addition, when Starr thinks back to that period, he is reminded of being similar to the president, but having much more pleasure in that role. It seems as though the entire time we were together, we were participating in a mystical adventure, and I suppose, strangely, we probably still are. The Beatles famously disbanded in 1969, choosing instead to pursue their musical endeavors and go their separate ways. Each individual released solo albums, including John Lennon, until a fan murdered him in 1979. John Lennon was one of the Beatles. So what are your thoughts on today's video? Please let us know in the comment section below. And if you haven't done so already, make sure to subscribe to the channel so that you don't miss any of our incredible videos posted in the future. Keep an eye out for the next video. Bye for now.